Avengers Endgame is not as good as The Godfather, nor is it as good as Blade Runner 2049, and it's not even as good as Infinity War, but it's still a damn great movie. Avengers Infinity War is one of my favorite films of all time. Now keep in mind that when I first watched Infinity War, I liked it as much as I like this movie, but as I watched it more, I kind of liked it even more, and now it's one of my favorite films of all time. It's actually in the list of my favorite films of all time, which you can check down below in the description. I think that's an amazing movie. The way that film is paced, the way that they manage between the characters, and just how entertaining that film is. It's one of the most entertaining
films I've ever seen.
Now, because Infinity War is so good, the audience expected Endgame to be better than Infinity War, and, to be just a total perfect movie, with everything being absolutely perfect, absolutely entertaining, and no flaws at all. Now, that's not the movie that we got. But still, the movie is really, really great, and I think it does reach most of the expectations of the audience in terms of its quality. So guys, Avengers Endgame is directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, one of my favorite pairs of directors nowadays, because they've directed so many good MCU movies, and they've done a great job with Avengers Endgame. I do think it would have been better if they took a break from the Marvel Cinematic Universe in between maybe Infinity War and Endgame. And I think that could have kind of made them a bit more creative, because what often happens with directors, if they work on the same film series for too long, they kind of lose their creativity a bit, which I don't totally see in this movie. I'm just saying that if they did that, maybe this movie could have been even better. So guys, let's jump straight into the review. Let's talk about the pros first, the positives of this movie, and there are a whole bunch, and they're all really, really awesome. Now, because we've had these actors working for like 11 years in the same universe with the same other actors, they've developed a very strong chemistry, which really makes their interactions feel totally real. There's not one moment in this film where two people were talking and I didn't think it was real. I thought everything that everyone was doing was real, and I thought that the chemistry between the actors was amazing, charming, funny, and the acting itself, it was also on a whole new level. Scarlett Johansson gave a performance that surprised me. It just blew me away and totally stole the show. But everyone really gave their best performance. Captain America, Chris Evans also gives one of his best performances, and I just think everything to do with performances and chemistry between these actors has been just directed so well, and because of the long line of movies before them, they've also had that kind of history and chemistry to just make this movie feel real. Also guys, this film is unpredictable as anything. Like, you cannot predict a scene to the next scene. It starts off with a very, very high point, which is also quite unpredictable. I'm not gonna spoil anything, of course, but it starts off and it lets you know that this is not gonna be your cliched, typical, predictable movie, even though the structure of the movie may be predictable, and you may be able to guess it before viewing it, but the actual things that happen in the movie, the kind of fan services that happen, the kind of scenes, individual scenes, are so unpredictable. My jaw was dropping every 5 seconds. Now, the best part of this movie, I think, is the extreme emotional satisfaction that it gives, especially in that final act, and, some other points as well. I cried a lot. This may have been the most I've cried in a movie theater. I've cried more in movies, but, at an actual cinema, this may be the most I've ever cried. This is crazy crying, and it got pretty ugly. What I'm trying to say is that this movie is so emotional. You might want to take a tissue box with you because you are gonna need it. This movie also has a very grand scale that we all expected from it. You have these giant, massive battles that I cannot even describe. It's something that we've kind of never seen before, except for maybe the Lord of the Rings movies. It's equivalent to that, and it's awesome. It's amazing, and this really grand scale does actually make this movie worth saying that it's epic. It's one of the most, it's probably the most epic movie inside the MCU, with Infinity War, of course, because that as well, in my opinion, is a very epic movie. But, you know, Infinity War had a very large scale, and this movie has an even larger scale. The actions the characters make have actual consequences, so that actually makes you feel for the characters even more, because they are, like, have real problems that they're dealing with, while raising up the stakes a whole lot, so you really care about what's going on. And my last and final positive, there is many more, but I don't want to get into it because they may spoil some things. But anyways, my last positive for my spoiler-free review is that this film, the final act of this film, is one of the most final hours in any movie ever. It's so perfect, like, in every way. There is some dodgy CGI that I will talk about later, but, you know, everything about this movie, like, everything about that act, that hour, it's all, like, fan service in the best way. Like, it's fan service, but it doesn't get in the way of story or, like, character. It's fan service to suit the story. And it all makes sense, and it's all so emotional. And because you have a connection with these characters, it's even better. And guys, I'm telling you, if the first two, like, kind of acts of this movie were, like, really terrible and just the worst piece of film ever, and the last hour was the same, I would still give this movie a positive review, because the last hour of this film is so amazing that it's kind of hard to describe in words. It's everything you want, everything you don't want, and it's amazing. So guys, it's now time for my cons. You know, if you're gonna get offended about anything, please just leave. I don't care if you do, but this is just my opinion. Remember, I love this movie. I do. I really love this movie, but I do think that there's some problems. So my first problem is that the first 30 minutes of this movie felt way too fast-paced for me. There are some audiences and critics that are saying the first kind of act is too slow, but in my opinion, everything happened way too fast. They could have had like 10 more minutes to pad everything out a little bit. For what was going on, I think the pacing was a bit too fast. And I really don't understand how audiences and critics are saying that it's too slow. You can definitely feel something wrong in the pacing, which I interpreted as the pacing was too fast. This is also something that I felt in The Last Jedi, just by the way, not giving any comparisons, but, you know, I felt that in The Last Jedi as well, and I still feel that every time I watch it, even though I love that movie. Now, my next problem isn't really a problem, it's more like a kind of just something, right? Something that I was unsure about, a mixed bag, you can say. The score itself for the movie is kind of experimental. It's very different to anything that we've seen inside the MCU. Alan Silvestri once again does the score. I think he's very talented. His work on Infinity War was absolutely amazing. But the score this time around is a bit weird. You do notice it while you're watching the film. But then again, it does actually help in the very emotional moments. But when it's not really an emotional moment, you do really notice it. At least for me, I'll have to watch the movie again to actually realize my decision, whether the score is a good thing or a bad thing. But, you know, it's just a mixed bag for me right now. I'll let you know, I'll comment down below, actually, from this video, whether I think the score is actually working or not when I watch this film a second time, which I will probably do very soon. And the last final criticism that I have is that there's a few CGI shots that are, like, not the best as they can be. You know, this film has amazing CGI. Some of the best CGI that I've ever seen. You know, the work on Thanos, the work on... Okay, I'm not gonna say what kind of work, but, there's some CGI shots that are, like, truly amazing. But, like, there's, like, maybe, like, literally only, like, 4 or 5 CGI shots that I found a bit sketchy. But when I did find them a bit dodgy, I could visibly see them, and I don't know if the larger audience will be able to see them, but it definitely annoyed me a little bit, even though this is a nitpick, and I don't really care about this at all. Like, if this was the only problem in the movie, I would still give it, like a high review, but it's still a problem, and it's totally understandable, it's totally watchable, but the CGI in those few shots just doesn't compare to the rest of the movie's CGI. So guys, in conclusion, I really love this movie. It's amazing, it's everything I wanted it to be, not more, everything I wanted it to be, and that's it. Some people are saying it's the best superhero movie ever. I disagree. Some people are saying it's the best MCU movie ever. I disagree. Some people are saying that, it's just mind-blowing and is flawless. I disagree. I think it's an amazing movie. I think it's almost as good as Infinity War, but it doesn't really reach that high for me. But yeah, guys, I love this movie. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Yes, that is a 4 out of 5 stars. Guys, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm just gonna shut up now.